The first time Dr. Alara Morgan saw Thalrun, she thought he was having some kind of seizure. The tall, willowy alien with iridescent blue-green skin had dropped to his knees the moment she entered the laboratory, his forearms trembling as he pressed his forehead to the cold metal floor. "Please rise," Alara said, uncomfortable with the display. "There's no need for that here." Thalron looked up, his large almond-shaped eyes, a mesmerizing swirl of silver and violet widening in apparent confusion. "But you are human," he said, his voice a melodic hum that seemed to resonate through the air itself. "To my people, humans are ancient, sacred beings who seeded the stars with life." Alara sighed. The diplomatic brief had mentioned the Vastorians' peculiar reverence for humans, but she hadn't expected this level of worship. As the lead xenobiologist on Outpost Horizon, her job was to study Thalrun, the first Vastorian ambassador to voluntarily participate in the cultural exchange program, not to be the object of his religious fascination. "I appreciate the respect, but here we work as equals," she said, offering her hand to help him up. "I'd prefer if you didn't bow." Thalrun hesitated before taking her hand. His skin was surprisingly warm, almost hot to the touch, with a texture like fine velvet. As he rose to his full height, nearly 7 feet tall, Alara couldn't help but notice the shimmer of bioluminescent patterns that rippled beneath his skin when they made contact. "As you wish," he said, though he didn't release her hand. Instead, he turned it over gently, examining her 5 fingers with an almost reverential fascination. "Though it will be difficult to disregard a lifetime of teachings." Over the next few weeks, Alara tried to maintain professional boundaries as she conducted her research. Thalron was a fascinating subject. His species had evolved in the deep oceans of Vastor before adapting to land, giving them remarkable physiological adaptations. But his constant attempts to serve her were becoming problematic. "You don't need to prepare my meals," she told him one evening when she found him in her private quarters arranging an elaborate dinner. "Or clean my lab, or organize my research notes." "It brings me joy to serve," Thalron replied, his bioluminescent patterns brightening, a sign of emotional intensity she'd learned. "In my culture, to serve an ancient is the highest honor." "But it's interfering with my work," Alara explained, trying to ignore how the light played across his elegant features. "I need to observe your natural behaviors, not watch you watching me." Thalron tilted his head, a gesture she found endearing despite herself. "Perhaps observing me observing you is the most natural behavior you could witness," he suggested with unexpected humor. "My people have awaited contact with humans for millennia." That night, unable to sleep, Alara reviewed her notes. The Vastorians' belief system was fascinating. They believed humans had visited their world thousands of years ago, genetically influencing their evolution and setting them on the path to sentience. To them, humans weren't just aliens, they were divine architects of their existence. A soft chime at her door interrupted her thoughts. "I apologize for the intrusion," Thalron said when she opened it. His skin was pulsing with agitated patterns. "But there's something I must ask." "What is it?" Alara stepped aside to let him in, acutely aware of her thin sleep clothes. "Why do you reject my service?" His voice carried genuine pain. "Have I offended you?" "No, not at all," she said, suddenly regretting her earlier firmness. "It's just on Earth we value independence and equality. And on Vastor we cherish the opportunity to honor that which gave us life." He moved closer, the scent of him like ocean rain. "Please allow me to honor you." The intensity in his alien eyes made something flutter in Alara's chest, something decidedly unprofessional. For the first time, she wondered if his desire to serve might be about more than just cultural obligation. "We'll find a balance," she whispered, not backing away when one of his 4 hands gently, tentatively reached to touch her face. In that moment, 2 worlds apart in biology, culture, and belief, something new and unexpected began to form. A connection that would challenge everything they both thought they understood about the universe. "The Ancient Ones, humans, appeared in our ancestral waters when my people were still primitive creatures," Thalron explained, his 4 hands creating intricate gestures that supplemented his words. "They carried starlight in their vessels and wisdom in their touch." Alara watched, transfixed, as holographic images from Vastorian history floated between them in the observation room. The images showed what appeared to be humans in environmental suits interacting with aquatic creatures that must have been Thalron's evolutionary ancestors. "You believe humans engineered your evolution?" she asked, trying to maintain scientific detachment despite her growing personal interest in Thalron himself. "Not merely believe, we remember," he corrected gently. His skin rippled with patterns of deep purple and gold, an expression of profound reverence. The memory is carried in our genetic code passed through generations. Your kind gave us the gift of consciousness, of self-awareness. Alara frowned. But there's no record of human exploration reaching vaster before the United Earth Alliance discovered your planet 50 years ago. Thalron's luminescent patterns shifted to a contemplative blue. Perhaps your records are incomplete, or perhaps the ancient ones who visited us were something else that closely resembled humans. Their cultural exchange sessions had become the highlight of Alara's days at the outpost. What had begun as formal research had evolved into intimate conversations that often lasted well into the night cycle. She found herself sharing details of Earth's history, art, and philosophy that went far beyond the scope of her scientific mission. Tell me about human bonding rituals, Thalron requested one evening as they shared a meal, a blend of Earth cuisine and synthesized Vastorian nutrients that he had prepared despite her continued protests. Alara nearly choked on her wine. Bonding rituals. What humans call relationships, he clarified, his patterns shifting to a curious rose color she hadn't seen before. Among my people, to even contemplate a personal bond with an ancient one would be. He trailed off, his four hands making a gesture she couldn't interpret. Would be what? She pressed, her heart beating faster. Sacrilege of the highest order, he finished quietly. To desire an ancient one as an equal rather than as a divine being would be to diminish their sacred nature. And is that how you see me, Thalron, as divine? Alara set down her glass, suddenly finding it difficult to breathe normally. Untouchable and beyond mortal desire. The patterns beneath his skin pulsed rapidly, almost chaotically, before settling into a deep crimson she had never witnessed before. I find myself conflicted, he admitted. My spiritual teachings tell me one thing, but my personal experiences with you suggest another truth entirely. Alara found herself moving closer to him, drawn by both scientific curiosity and something far more personal. And what truth is that? That perhaps divinity can exist in connection rather than separation, he whispered. Two of his hands hovered near hers on the table, not quite touching. That maybe the ancient ones meant for us to become companions rather than worshippers. The air between them seemed charged with possibility. Alara knew she was crossing professional boundaries, but something about Thalron, his gentle nature, his profound wisdom, the way his luminescence seemed to intensify whenever she entered a room, had begun to occupy her thoughts beyond the research lab. In human culture, she said carefully, relationships are built on mutual respect, understanding, and desire. She allowed her fingers to bridge the small gap between them, brushing against his, not worship or servitude. The touch sent visible waves of light cascading through his skin, and his breath, normally so measured, caught audibly. Then perhaps I have been honoring you incorrectly all this time, he said, his melodic voice deeper than usual. Commander Morgan, please report to the communications center immediately. The station's AI interrupted through the overhead speakers, shattering the moment. Alara reluctantly pulled her hand away. We'll continue this discussion, she promised. As she hurried to the communications center, her mind raced with dangerous possibilities. What was happening between them was unprecedented. No recorded case of human Vastorian attachment existed in the scientific literature. If Thalron's people discovered his growing feelings, what would they do? And what about her own career and reputation? More troubling still was the question that kept her awake at night. Was she taking advantage of his cultural conditioning to revere humans, or was there something genuine developing between two beings from worlds apart? When she reached the communications center, Director Kaplan's grave expression immediately extinguished the warm glow of her evening with Thalron. We've just received word, he said. A delegation from Vaster's High Council is en route to the station. They're coming to evaluate Thalron's work here and your research. Alara felt a chill run through her. When? They'll arrive in 3 days, Kaplan replied. And Dr. Morgan, they've specifically expressed concerns about proper protocols regarding the sacred nature of humans being maintained. In that moment, Alara realized that the cultural exchange between her and Thalron had evolved into something that might threaten not only their personal bond, but potentially diplomatic relations between their worlds. They can't know, Alara whispered urgently, packing the research lab where she and Thalron had sequestered themselves. If your High Council discovers these feelings between us, the consequences could be severe. Thalron's skin had dulled to an ashen blue, his bioluminescence dimmed with concern. In our history, those who treated the Ancient Ones as equals rather than divine beings were considered heretics, he admitted. The punishment would be severe for me, but the diplomatic repercussions for both our worlds could be far worse. Before Alara could respond, the station's emergency klaxon began blaring. Red lights pulsed throughout the laboratory. Warning: environmental breach detected in Sector 7, announced the station AI. Oxygen levels dropping, gravitational stabilizers compromised. Alara's blood ran cold. Sector 7 housed the station's primary life support systems. We need to move now, she said, already heading for the door. You should seek safety, Thalron said, his cultural conditioning resurfacing. I will address the danger. No, Alara replied firmly, grabbing an emergency repair kit from the wall. This is my station and my responsibility. If those systems fail, we all die, human and Vastorian alike. Conflicting emotions played across Thalron's features, visible in the changing patterns beneath his skin. His culture demanded he protect her as a sacred being, but his growing understanding of her as an individual told him to respect her capabilities. Then we go together, he finally said, making a decision that felt momentous. As equals. They raced through the station's corridors, passing panicked researchers being evacuated to the emergency shelters. When they reached Sector 7, the damage was immediately apparent. A micrometeorite had punctured the hull, causing cascading failures in the life support systems. The breach is too high for me to reach, Alara said, assessing the damage. Oxygen was rapidly venting through a hole nearly 10 feet above the floor. Without hesitation, Thalron lifted her with two of his arms. I will be your foundation, he said, his other two arms stabilizing them against the wall. Together we can reach it. As she worked to seal the breach, suspended in Thalron's strong arms, Alara felt a profound shift in their dynamic. He wasn't serving her as a divine being. He was supporting her as a partner, using his physiological advantages to complement her technical skills. Almost got it, she grunted, pressing the emergency sealant into place. Beneath her, Thalron's muscles trembled with the effort of holding her aloft in the deteriorating gravitational field, but he made no complaint. When the patch finally held and the alarm silenced, Thalron gently lowered her to the floor. They stood facing each other in the now quiet sector, both breathing heavily from exertion. You endangered yourself, he said, his voice a mixture of awe and concern. In my culture's teachings, the ancient ones are to be protected, never exposed to harm. Alara stepped closer to him. In my culture, we believe that true respect means allowing people to take risks for what matters to them. She placed her hand against his chest, feeling the rapid rhythm of his alien heartbeat. No one is too sacred to participate in saving what they care about. Thalron's skin rippled with new patterns, colors she had never seen before, shimmering with emotional depths that transcended cultural barriers. Slowly, hesitantly, he enfolded her in all four of his arms, breaking millennia of cultural taboo with a simple embrace. This is blasphemy by my people's standards, he whispered against her hair. Alara leaned into his embrace, feeling the warmth of his alien body against hers. Sometimes traditions need to evolve, she murmured. Sometimes what we've been taught isn't the whole truth. His lower set of hands tentatively stroked her back while his upper ones cradled her head with exquisite gentleness. When I first arrived, I thought serving you would be my purpose, he said. I never imagined that finding connection with you would become more meaningful than veneration. The intimate moment was shattered by the sound of approaching footsteps. They separated quickly as Director Kaplan appeared in the doorway. The station's secure now, thanks to your quick action, he said, looking between them with a raised eyebrow. But we have another situation. The Vastorian delegation has accelerated their arrival due to the emergency. They'll be docking within the hour. After Kaplan left, Alara turned to Thalron, fear evident in her eyes. What do we do now? We have broken with tradition in private, Thalron said, his skin pulsing with determination. Soon we may have to do so publicly. His four hands clenched briefly before relaxing. I cannot return to seeing you as merely divine, Alara. You are something far more precious to me now. You are real. He reached out, his fingers trailing along her cheek in a gesture that was unmistakably tender. Whatever happens when my people arrive, know that you have changed me irrevocably. The ancient texts speak of humans bringing enlightenment to my species. They never mentioned it could happen on an individual level, one soul at a time. As the station announced the imminent arrival of the Vastorian diplomatic vessel, Alara leaned into his touch, knowing that their private cultural exchange had evolved into something that might soon challenge the foundations of interspecies relations. And knowing equally well that she could no longer imagine her life without the beautiful alien who had come to revere her not as a goddess, but as a woman.